Hey there, Adam Ginsberg here. We're really excited to bring you a new integration between Buzzy and IBM Connections. So you've probably seen some of the news around the place. And what I thought I'd do is just give you a quick overview, which is more of a technical geek's look into some of the capabilities and why you may actually be interested in using Buzzy as part of your connection solutions. So we'll give you a quick overview. We'll show you how to create a community app. We'll also cover some custom workflow into posting into the activity stream and creating apps from scratch as well. So one of the first things is why would you actually be interested in using a tool like Buzzy to be able to create these instant apps? And the key thing is that if you look at what Connections does, it's an awesome tool providing collaborative environment between communities of people. But in lots of instances, you want to be able to collaborate or integrate with external parties or systems. And that's where Buzzy comes in, being able to allow you to quickly create applications that can A, be part of your communities, and B, be able to integrate with these external communities and external populations of users. So let's look at an example, and really this could be anything, but in this particular example, let's pretend that we're going to coordinate a conference. And the core activity is handled by the regional marketing team, and there's a conference team, sales team that all collaborate, and they're really part of a connections community. And that's quite a common use case that we see out there today. And I'm sure you've possibly used Connections to cover some of those capabilities. If we look outside that core community of people, and this might be 5, 10, 20 people as part of the core community. But as we start to integrate with either other employees or contractors, so for example, sales teams, so we can do things like pull together invitee lists, perhaps even ask them for abstracts and get case studies. And then also customers and partners as well who need to be part of the conference. And we might be looking at connecting with them, obviously getting them to attend the conference, participate, maybe even submit things like abstracts, communicate with them via newsletters and so on. So in those particular areas, if we could create a set of applications that allow us to A, collaborate internally in a better way, but also reach out to these external teams to be able to capture information from them and involve them in the process. Now in this example, the assumption is that these external users, whether they be customers or partners or these external sales teams, are not Connections users. So we're going to use Connections for the core collaboration and Buzzy for this extended collaboration. So I won't cover this in detail, there's other information out there, but one of the cool things you can do today is you can get running with Buzzy instantly in a matter of minutes, literally a few clicks from the Connections Catalog. It'll enable Buzzy for your Connections community. So once you've done that, and I won't go through that process, what you'll end up with is a situation where you want to be able to integrate some of these applications with this. Now I've pre-created this corporate conference community, and it's a place where we could share files and wiki and that, again, amongst our internal sales and marketing and conference creation team. That we've pulled from a subset of employees within our organization. Connections is a great way for you to be able to do that. But what we've got over here is we've actually got a conference application that's already built. And it's one of the out-of-the-box applications for Buzzy. So we're going to, first of all, just add and enable this community to be able to integrate with Buzzy. So I'm going to click on Add App. And we're going to scroll down, and once you've enabled Buzzy through the catalog, you'll be able to see your Buzzy application. And once we've added that to the community, we'll see here it is down the bottom. So it's actually just going to log in, then it'll filter out the buzzers for this community. Now, one of the things you'll see over here, it'll actually be empty to start off with, because this community doesn't have any applications associated. So the first step is we're going to go and we're actually going to create that application. So we're going to click on New, and that will open a new window over here, which will allow us to select from a set of predefined applications. Now there's a bunch of them. They do all sorts of different things. So you could organize leave requests. You could deal with expenses, things like job applications. We're talking now about things like planning an event, or a whole ton of them. You can search through them, and also any templates that you create yourself will end up on this list. So some of these over here will be private. So one of the things that we want to be able to coordinate with is let's actually go over here and plan an event. So this is something that the team. So we'll click on Create Buzz, and this will then create an application. And by the way, I could have previewed that and seen what was actually in it, whether this template was available to me. Now, when I click this, it's created an application, and it's got a whole bunch of information over here. So you can set some event information, so it allows people to RSVP. You can put things like location information and so on. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to customize this. So let's just say we're going to call this the Acme Inc. Conference. And you can do things like customize the images over here and stuff like that. So we can come in and we can just click this little photo. We'll upload a new image. Let's just choose one of the cool images that I've got over here. Let's have a look. Oh, I like this one. So let's go with that. And again, you could import that image from anywhere. So you can define things like the size and how big you want the image, and it'll compress it on the fly and just makes it easy to be able to do this. Now, one of the cool things with Buzzy is this application that I'm creating is going to be available on your desktop through Connections, but also be available as a separate app on your mobile phone. So there's our new image. That's great for our conference. And obviously we could come in here, we could customize anything. So I won't spend a bunch of time doing this. One of the things over here is we'll just add a new event. So let's just say opening drinks and food. And we could, again, define a location, define a time and a date, any additional information. I'll just keep it simple for the purpose of the demo. And then we can see over here, we've got the ability to see who's coming. So anyone who sees this application will be able to come in and see. And at the moment, I'm the only one in here, so it's not going to be very interesting, but we can see how that works. I can also add other things to this application. And they could be things like files from Connections. I don't actually have any for this particular community or this user at the moment. But we could also add things like event lists, to-do lists, or create your own application. So we're going to just cancel out of there. And again, we could come in and we could, define our own content. I'll just use some Latin text over here just to kind of illustrate the point, and there it is. Now, at this point in time, it's a draft little application that captures things like RSVP information. By the way, we've got payment integration with services like Stripe integrated. I'm just going to delete that. We won't need that for this particular example. There we go. We can remove that. Now, let's by the way, if I flick back to my community over here, we don't see it. And the reason we don't see that is this community only shows published applications for the community. So as soon as I click on Publish Draft, what we'll see over here is that if we come back over here, we now see that new conference application as part of that community. Now this community can obviously go in and have multiple different applications. So one of the things we wanted to be able to also add to this community is the ability for people to be able to, let's say, put in abstracts. We're going to send out some invites to this community. It can just be a link. Anything in Buzzy can just be addressable through a URL link. You don't have to have the app, but obviously it integrates with Connections and also is available as an application through iOS and Android as well. So let's have a look at this. So what we'll do over here is we're going to just add a new little application. And this application is we'll just use the blank application template. So we're going to go in and customize this. Now I'm going to go at speed, and we're going to call this, so let's say submit abstracts. We're going to add some fields in. So we're going to give it a title. So you want to give a title. You want to give, let's put another text field in over here called description. And let's go in and we're going to add in the author, so the person submitting it. So we'll go via submitter. and then the submitted date. And obviously we could add in other fields like things like select lists, which might have topic or location. We can actually also put in, we'll put in some files over here, so an attachment. So we could put in just general files. So if this application is going to be used by external users, you can pull in files, you can store them in the cloud. Additionally, you can also add, we've got an ability to coordinate with or use connections files as the repository. But that obviously does require the user to have a connections account. And in this situation for this app, they might not actually have that all the time, because we talked about some of them are external parties. So let's have a look at this application. If we click add new, there we can put in a title. So some cool, I can't spell, cool talk. Description over here might be some description, that we put in. And then we could come in and we could attach files. So let's just go over here. So I've got some dummy files over here. So we'll just put that brochure in, we'll attach that, and away we go. So that's our really simple application. So now we've got information about the event, and we're also going to be able to capture this information about people can actually come in and submit abstracts. Now, for each one of these applications, you can define certain rules, like who can actually submit content, who can view content. So we might make this only viewable by the owners and authors of this application. So somebody could submit something and then they can see their own stuff, but they can't see what other people have submitted. And again, that's all controllable. We saw how we could customize fields, and then we could see over here, we'll talk about the workflow and actions in a second. So let's have a look at, so that's really just an example. And again, this is fully integrated into Connections. And so we've created that app literally we started off with a template, which was the plan and event one. And now we've added this noodle application so we can get abstracts. But one of the things that we want to be able to do is we want to be able to notify the marketing team about when a new abstract is submitted. Because remember, it might be submitted by somebody outside of the organization. So what we can do over here is we can come in and we can set a new workflow. So when a row is submitted, please notify, and we could make this owners and authors or followers, and also we'll notify the community. So we'll just set that in as followers. So we'll put a new abstract submitted by let's see what our fields were called. So we'll just say new abstract title by the author over here. So let's go back over here. So new abstract, we'll put the variable over there in square brackets, pretty easy, by square bracket submitter. And we click add. Now we've got this new rule over here that will fire when something new is created. So now let's see over here. So now we're going to add, let's call this abstract. Abstract 2, something cool 2, and I won't add a file, you saw that working before, and I'll submit that abstract. So now that abstract has been submitted. Now if we go back to our community over here, what we'll have a look at is, if we have a look at the recent updates, we'll see that submission, since we set that workflow up, has been submitted and is accessible via the activity stream. So that's pretty cool. So now what we can do is we can actually come in and have for somebody in the sales and marketing team, they're using the activity stream, they can come and have a look at the abstract, access the files, etc., right from the activity stream without having to go into the Buzzy application. And for things like approval, workflow, that's pretty cool. So let's go in and have a look at that. So that's actually a good point. So one of the things we can do over here is we can just come back in, and then we're going to add a new field. And the new field is, let's say, is going to be, we'll just use a checkbox for now. So we'll go checkbox, approved. And that field is only editable by owners and authors. And one thing I forgot to do over here is that because we want anyone to be able to submit abstracts, we can define, again, access level control at a field level who can actually submit content. So they can submit all this stuff, but the approved thing is only going to be available to the owners and authors. So that's cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do something. So at the moment, if we look at who's got access to this application, there's myself, I'm the owner, and the corporate conference community, which is a Connections Cloud community. Now you can hook this into things like IBM Watson Workspace as well. We also integrate with Slack. But for the purposes of this, the really cool integration is with Connections. So let's have a look. We're going to add in another user who actually happens to be myself, but this user is at Gmail, and we're just going to make them an audience member. Now, what you'll actually see over here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my phone, and we're going to have a look at that application on my phone. Let's have a look. So I'm just bringing my phone up over here. Now, what would have happened is that Adam on his mobile phone would have received a notification that says, hey, somebody's invited you to this application. We can see that little conference application, and the user can use it. Now, this is a native iOS application, as I mentioned. Now, this user can't do things like edit anything. However, one of the things they can do is they could come and say, yes, they're attending. Now we'll see over here on the left-hand side. Let's just make this screen over here a bit smaller. Let's drag this one over. Oops. Let's go over here. It's the video window has stopped me from dragging things over. So anyway, we'll just leave that. Larger again. So apologies, yeah, the video stopped me from doing that. But what we'll see over here is the user on the left-hand side being the owner or the administrator, but it can come in and look at the results. And they can see that two people have done that, and they can actually download that to things like Excel. So you can download a CSV file of those results, which is going to be important for sharing that information with other people. So now on the right-hand side over here, let's actually just go back in here. Let's move that out the way for a sec. Just going to click done. I'm going to bring my phone back on the screen. Let's bring that back over there. Let's just cancel that. So what we're going to see over here is that there's two abstracts in here. Now the user on the phone can't see those abstracts because they're only an audience member. And if you remember, we set the results to only be viewable by the authors themselves and for the owners and authors. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to add a new thing. So Adam's cool abstract number 3. And again, I could come in and add files. So I'll put a great app. Okay, cool. Let's just go with that for purpose of the demo. So now what will happen is I'll submit that application. And you can see that submitted. And we could change the sort order of this application. So I could submit that application. And then again through the, I need to bring this down. Apologies. How do I get that window down? Please come down. There we go. So what we can do is, if I go back over here and I refresh this screen, and we'll just move my phone off the screen again, we'll see over here that a user from outside of Connections has submitted that abstract. And again, I can make that smaller. Let's bring my phone back in here. Let's bring it over there. And I'll just open this on my phone. Now I can see, on my phone, I can't edit that field. But the user over here, who on the left-hand side, who is the author as well, let's just make that a bit smaller. And they're going to click on that item in the activity stream. They're going to be able to do things like review the content, look at the document, and so on. And they could come in and approve that. Now, I don't know if you notice on the right-hand side of my phone over there, that's approved instantly. And similarly, as we created the workflow item for the submission of the applications, we could have had a workflow item that, send a notification to, let's say, the conference agenda organizer that an abstract's been approved and so on, or to the user that says, hey, your thing's been approved. Now, all that's happened from an application that we created that is integrated with IBM Connections. It's available on my phone, on my desktop, to an external user, integrated with the activity streams, and so on. So that's just one example of a very simple application that we created in a matter of minutes. We customized the workflow and integrated with Connections. So hopefully that will give you some ideas of how you can get started with Buzzy. Again, the cool thing to go and do is go and have a look at all the templates that are out there. So just click on the new this little plus symbol up the top right, or the create button from your community, and just go and have a look at them and search through these. There's tons of really cool applications that are ready for you to be able to use. And again, as we saw, it's really easy to be able to create your own application. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy having a go with Buzzy. Thanks.